This meeting is being recorded. All right.
Like how now this is the first time it gave me a notification like you're being recorded.
Yeah, that was something new they added in. They didn't do that before. Yeah, I know, and it's weird. It's kind of weird. I don't like her screaming in my ear that we're being recorded now.
Big Brother's watching.
Big Brother's watching. Yep. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Bright Connections. I'm BK. Joining me once again, Will. He's back. Will, how you doing?
Great, buddy. Good to see you again.
You as well. You as well. We got yet another different scene from you today. We've got outdoors today. It's nice outside, and you're coming to us live from the great outdoors.
Yes. But as you know, in Pittsburgh, we don't always get sunshiny, gorgeous days like this. So when we do, you got to take advantage of them because before you know it, we'll be cooped up inside and there'll be 3 inches of snow out front.
Yep. Even in who knows when, next month possibly, even it'll be snowing. Then the week after it'll be 80 degrees again.
Yep, exactly.
But Will, you're doing well. Everybody's doing good.
Yeah, doing great. Happy, healthy.
Good.
Just living life and trying to talk and spend time with friends. So I'm glad that you have me on again today.
You bet. So we've got a good one here. So today we're gonna do a little recap of the Disney Plus series, the Marvel series Loki. We're gonna talk on that, some cool connections between that and other shows in the Marvel series, and what's next for Marvel, what's next for Loki, what's next for Marvel. So it should be a lot of fun. Before we do that, we're gonna touch on some sports stuff. So Will and I are obviously big sports guys. We're gonna talk some updates on sports and obviously we're Pittsburgh guys, so Will and I want to talk a little bit on Pittsburgh sports and then we'll jump into the Loki stuff. So Will, you mentioned to me, I wasn't even thinking about it. I didn't even realize, but Pittsburgh Steelers preseason is coming up.
Yep.
Actually, by the time this episode comes out, we've already had that first preseason game. So we're here already. The football season's getting ready to start, and I didn't even realize the year is going by that quick.
Yeah, it really is. And for the first time, the NFL has reduced the preseason from 4 games to 3 games. However, the Steelers this year will still have 4 games because they are in the highly famous Hall of Fame game.
The highly anticipated. Everybody can't wait.
Yeah, definitely highly anticipated. But the good part is at least the Steelers have a bunch of guys going in the Hall of Fame this year. So continue to shine and be known as one of the most prestigious franchises in the league. Polamalu, I mean, we all know, especially our generation, love Polamalu. So it'd be good to see him in. And Bill Cowher, Bill Nunn, famous scout who brought those guys in the 70s who were often overlooked coming from historically black colleges and universities, and other scouts just didn't scout them. Bill Nunn did, and the league soon caught up with that. So thank goodness he was ahead of the curve on that one.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of
Danica too.
Yeah. A lot of, and even I'm glad that you brought up some of the non-player people, because there's a lot of people out there that don't realize all that goes into it, and that some of these people that have done amazing things that aren't players, they do deserve to be recognized, whether it be the Hall of Fame or at least something else. They have done amazing things, and like you said, with even just being a scout, just changing the norm and bringing in these guys that other scouts and other teams would overlook. It's a big thing.
Yeah. Have you ever been to Canton in the Hall of Fame?
I have not. Is it cool?
It is pretty cool. I've been a couple times. My last time was probably about 5 years ago at this point. So I'm probably due to go back out. It's a neat place though. A lot of history there, and you would like it being a football fan.
Oh yeah, I'm sure I would. Is it a really really large building with just like all these shrines and cases and stuff. I don't really even honestly know what to expect with it.
Yeah, it's just a big facility. So you have, of course, you have the busts that you see oftentimes at like the ceremonies and stuff.
Yep.
Then they break it down by like teams and who you go in with as teams. They'll have memorabilia, so game worn jerseys,
Okay.
interactive things for more so for kids, but like you can throw footballs through like, different hoops and whatnot.
Yeah.
Of course, a big gift shop. The gift shop has every team, so it's kind of cool because we're used in Pittsburgh. We're used to seeing only like Steelers memorabilia, but
Yeah.
there you literally you can get memorabilia for any team you want. So it's pretty neat. And
Yeah.
it's not that far away. It's Canton, Ohio, so about 2 hours or so away. Pretty easy drive. Not much else to do in Canton, but uh, you can make a night of it. I'm sure there's stuff to do. I'm just not aware of it.
Right. It sounds like Will's trying to throw his pitch out there for me to get off my butt and go visit Canton, Ohio, and the Hall of Fame.
Definitely, man. You'd love it.
I would. I would. So we've got the Hall of Fame game and start of preseason. So Steelers yet again should be a good team, in my opinion. What are you thinking for this year for the Steelers?
We could probably have a good conversation here now. Then I think because I have a bet on the under the season for the Steelers.
Oh,
Currently at 8.5. So I think Tomlin will finally have his first losing season.
oh,
Of course, there is an extra game included, so there will no longer be like 8-8s. So will either be, I guess, unless there's a tie, you can still have ties, but
maybe 8-1 or whatever.
yeah. So I'm thinking 8-9 for the Steelers this year.
Damn.
I'm not sold on our offensive line. 5 new starters coming in. None of them have a particularly high pedigree. Very thin too. Behind that line, you have Roethlisberger, who still has talent. He's not as good as he was, but I'd still put him in the top 15 quarterbacks. However, he is injury prone, and we've seen what can happen as you get older and less mobile.
Yeah.
We do have Najee, but gotta have a good line in front of him. He can only do so much.
Yeah. Got to have the hole there for a running back to get through.
Defensively, not a whole lot of depth, especially at linebacker, cornerback. Of course, you can say that for a lot of teams. If one guy gets injured, then they're screwed. But I think it's particularly concerning for the Steelers because there's a big drop off in those cases. And you have a new offensive coordinator coming in. So yeah, all in all, it's a tough division. The Browns are on the up and up still. We found that out in the playoffs. The Ravens are always tough. If Joe Burrow comes back healthy from that injury, the Bengals might even surprise some folks. They split the season with us last season, the series with us last season. So that's something to be concerned about as well. So, and we have a tough schedule, one of the toughest in the league.
Always. It seems like we always do.
So all in all, yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. I'll still watch every game and root for him, but I got to be a realist. And if I'm going to make some money off other people's hopes, then that's fine by me.
Yeah, well, I'm one of those hopefuls, as you would probably imagine. Me being me, I think they're still going to have a good season. If I had to predict the record, I'm honestly going to say like 10-7. I think they'll go 10-7. Yes, they have a new line, but as I was talking with my last guest last episode, having new people, unheard people isn't always necessarily a bad thing. Having people that want to prove themselves, having people that you haven't heard of. There's a lot of people out there with a ton of talent, and just because it's a new line, they might surprise people. I'm hopeful, obviously, that they do. Sometimes it's tough when you don't have a guy like DeCastro or Pouncey where they're proven winners and know exactly what to do. But at the same time, you never know. You got these guys that, again, like I said, trying to prove themselves, but have not had the opportunity to show their talent, and you just never know. You never know. So the offensive line is probably the biggest concern, in my opinion. I think the wide receivers will get back to being very good. I think we have a very good receiving core in the receivers and tight ends as well. Harris definitely brings a lot to the table as the running back. So I think our offense will be good. I'm not sold on our defense being not good. I think our defense is still on the elite level. I think we are able to put a lot of pressure on. Biggest concern is definitely the secondary with our cornerbacks. Losing Steven Nelson, he was huge, absolutely huge for us as that number 2 cornerback. So the second guy has to step up. Don't even know who it's going to be yet. We lost Hilton in the slot too, so definitely the big concern there. I think our safeties are good though. I think our safeties are real good. I think our linebackers and our line are still really good. You did bring up a good point with the depth at linebacker, which definitely makes sense. But Highsmith came on last year. I think he had a good season. If he has improved minutes, I think he'll be good. And then we also brought in the new guy who I'm blanking on right now.
Ingram.
Yep, Melvin Ingram. He's a veteran. He's been around, so he should fit in. He should do well. So I think that front 7 on the defense is good. The safeties are good. It's really the cornerbacks that are be concerned, which seems like for Pittsburgh is pretty much year to year. Our secondaries are always our biggest concern. But at the same time, I think the way our defense is set up, the scheme that we go by, is we're able to put enough pressure on quarterbacks and running backs and everything, is that we don't have to worry so much about running with wide receivers all across the field. And I think that we're still able to put enough pressure on with who we have that we're going to be able to have success on the defensive end. And like I said, on the offensive end, I think we've got enough weapons. I do. I think Juju kind of gets back to being real good. I think Claypool kind of figures it out again. He had a great first half of the season. Claypool was amazing. Did die off the second half. I think he's going to, I'm hoping, over the offseason, everything, he's going to learn how to deal with all that pressure and all that focus from other teams. And I know Juju, they said, wants to be out of the slot and back on the end. I think that hopefully will help him out as well. So I'm hopeful. I definitely see your points for sure. There's points for concern, but like I said, having new guys isn't always necessarily a bad thing. You just never know. With athletes, there's always potential for people to prove themselves, and having that opportunity, having more playing time, more time to show your ability, is enough motivation in its own to do well. And until you see them on the field to know if they're good or bad, why not be hopeful? So I'm hopeful. I don't know. We'll see. So I did forget about the whole extra game though, that there's 17 games. So that threw me off for a second. But yeah, 10-7 is my prediction. So
we'll see. Will that be good enough to make the playoffs?
Yeah. Yep. As competitive as our division is always, what did we won the division last year, and what was the record that we won it?
12-4, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we had that late season slide at the end.
Yeah, we lost like 3 in a row. 10-7 is probably not enough to win the division though, so we'll have to slide into a wild card. Yeah. I don't think 10-7 is enough to win our division. It's definitely still a tough division with Baltimore and Cleveland and still even Cincinnati. So, yeah, I think we squeak in. Play the underdog role. I like the underdog role. I think that keeps us on our toes a little bit better than when we win the division and we think we're gonna, cruise on through, like Pittsburgh teams always like to do. They always downplay the opponent. So maybe the underdog role is the better way to go.
We'll see. A lot of unproven guys, like you said, not necessarily a bad thing. But until they prove it, I'm just not sold yet, especially at the tackle position. Chooks was average. Banner got cut by the 1-16 Browns. Played half a game of football before getting hurt.
Yeah.
I'd like to see him do some more playing rather than talking, but that's most of the Steelers team anymore.
Uh-oh. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. Let's see if they put their money where their mouth is.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So that's the Steelers. Penguins. I guess we've got a few moves going on with the Penguins. Not a whole lot. It's off season, so not a whole lot going on there. But lost a couple people in the expansion draft. So last episode was all about the expansion draft. So we lost McCann and Tanev. But again, the whole bringing in these new guys, these young guys, I think it leaves it open. I'd like to see our first round draft pick from a couple years ago, Sammy Poulian. I'd like to see him honestly make the team. I think he's got a lot of potential. I think he could provide a lot for the Penguins. So we'll see if he makes it. But it also, again, it just leaves it open for the guys who already were here to improve role, step up, and do bigger things. So sucks losing guys that you liked and that brought a lot to the team, but at the same time, maybe new faces are good,
Yeah, I think Laguerre, Poulier, I think they'll have opportunity to put themselves on the big league roster this upcoming season. Historically, Hextall and Brian Burke like bigger teams, so they are bigger type players. Not a whole lot of cap room, so the moves Pens have made have been mostly depth and third line type guys.
Yeah.
Did lose Tanev. We high energy, plays the game the right way.
Yeah.
Just didn't always finish, and that's why he's on the third line.
Yeah.
But we'll have to see. I think there might be a move or two left, especially with Fleury getting blindsided and traded to Chicago. Him finding out via Twitter.
Yeah.
I did see earlier this morning he said he is going to report to Chicago. However, that doesn't preclude the Penguins from maybe getting involved if they want. This is a new administration, so we don't really know their thoughts on Fleury and if they're. I mean, it's hard not to be a fan. He just won the Vezina.
Yeah.
But he does carry a significant cap hit, so there would have to be some shuffling of salary for him to be brought back.
Yeah, salary retention by Chicago for sure. Yeah, I mean, there's been reports that he wants to come back. He said, So latest I've heard is that he's still considering retiring. He's still considering playing for Chicago if they would promise that he wouldn't be traded again like midseason. But there have also been reports that he would like to come back to Pittsburgh for family reasons. So it's still all up in the air. The whole thing was just sketchy and weird in every way imaginable. And again, Fleury being disrespected as an individual, has done so much for every team that he's played on. Absolutely amazing human being, and just not getting the respect he deserves. We'll see with that. Yeah, we'll see with that situation. But yeah, definitely minor moves from the Penguins. Brock McGinn, kind of the same type of player as Tanev, might not be as fast and as physical, but actually might have a little bit more finishing ability than Tanev. So I think that was a good signing. Losing Ceci was a big one though for me. Ceci had an amazing year. A lot of people didn't expect what he performed to. So losing him is a big one. I don't know who's going to fill that spot, but we need to figure it out because Pettersson definitely did not have a good year last year. 2 years ago, he had a great year. Last year was awful. So we'll see maybe who we get. Marino kind of the same way. He had 2 years ago, he had a great year as a rookie year. Last year was okay. It wasn't anything special. I don't think it was terrible, but it wasn't anything special. So Letang's still getting up there. I believe this is his last year now on his contract. So there's been talk for like 2 years now if he's going to get moved. So a lot of questions. Malkin just turned 35 a couple days ago. Crosby's 34. Not a lot of prospects. Not a lot of prospects. So some cause for concern, but still, it's the Penguins. The Penguins always kind of find a way to have success. Haven't had as much success in the playoffs the last couple of years, but they're always there. They're always where, they're always competitive. They're always one of the top teams. They're always around. So until the big name guys are gone, I have to imagine we're still going to be right there in contention. So.
Yeah, windows for championships probably closed, but as long as you have Crosby, I think we'll at least make the playoffs. Probably go out in the first round as we have the past couple years, but that's just just life in the NHL. Happened to the Kings, happened to the Blackhawks. It's happening to us. So we had a really great run, and maybe with the right moves, that window can stay open for another season or two, but. We can't expect Crosby and Malkin, Letang to put the team on their backs like they did 10 years ago.
Yeah. Yep. So. Got to have other guys step up. I know Gensel was a little bit of a disappointment this last postseason. In the past, he's been a machine in the postseason and really didn't do much this last year. So it's guys like that. Him, Zucker didn't do anything. Third, fourth line guys really didn't do a whole lot either. So just the other guys, actually, if you think about it, I don't think Crosby really had an amazing postseason himself either. So it's one of those things. Guys have to step up. Guys have to be the go-to person, or even in a certain game, just have to be a big moment. Gotta do what it takes in the big moment. So, goalies were a little questionable, I guess, this last year as well. So, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it was just a bad season. Maybe we'll pick it up again next year. That's the beauty of it with sports. You just never know.
It's always next year.
There's always next year. Any team that you count out could end up being good. Any team that you think is going to be good could have a crap year. So that's one of the reasons sports is so amazing, is that anybody can be good on a certain day. Anybody can be good on a certain year.
Yep.
It's unpredictable.
Yeah, who would have thought the Canadians would have made it to the finals?
No one. Absolutely no one, except maybe some hardcore Montreal fans who really wanted it to be so. But yeah, no one thought they would be there. No one. So I don't know. We'll see. Another Penguin season. Hockey's always fun. So I'm looking forward to another season for sure. And then last but not least, got the good old Buccos, the Pittsburgh Pirates. So just had the trade deadline a little while ago, and pretty much dished off everyone again, and we're back to our normal ways, selling everybody and picking up prospects that never really turn out to do anything, other than maybe Brian Reynolds.
Yeah, this administration, I like the way they're going. Seem to be going for high upside, high risk type players, which is a small market. We're never going to get that free agent to come here. So we need to make sure we're drafting for those high upside, get those guys in the system, get them cheap. If it pans out, we'll see. But I like the way they're going with it. We are going to be very bad the rest of the way, and that's fine, because that just means a higher draft pick next season to continue to lay that foundation. And potentially the season after that will be the one where maybe we start to see some of those prospects and talent come to fruition. So there's a light at the end of the tunnel, hopefully. Guys they brought in, the owner is still the owner. He's still a cheapskate. He's not going to do anything to really put money into the team to win, but he has people in place. Travis Williams came from the Penguins, obviously a very successful organization. Ben Sherrington has won a World Series before. So these are guys that didn't have to come to the Pirates. These are guys that had options, could have stayed where they were. So they're smart people, they're talented people, and it's just a matter of whether Nutting decides to maybe at that time put some more money into it when we're close. He didn't do that in 2018, and we got coming off a 98 win season. We had 0 free agents signed. That was a huge detriment, huge error on his part. But our division's definitely there for the taking. It's usually not one team that pulls away. It's usually a pretty tight division, so there will be that opportunity for us if some of these guys play up to their pedigree. So, yeah, we'll see.
An optimistic Pirate fan, not something you hear too often. I like it though. I like it. I like it. It's tough for me. This is one of the first years that I really haven't paid much attention to the Pirates. It's been really frustrating because of Nutting and just how little he cares. But that's good to hear from you that there are other people in the organization that are could be I guess proven, but that do seem to have a desire to make the most of what they're given. So that's promising. Hopefully, some of these prospects do end up coming in and finding success. I'd like to see the Pirates again. When they were in the postseason, a handful of years ago, it was exciting. It was the city of Pittsburgh was buzzing, for baseball, postseason baseball again, and it was awesome. And then the last couple of years, again, it's been a disappointment, and I think people are frustrated. They don't want to see another 20+ year drought of just 50 and 130 record. It's not something we're looking forward to, but at the same time, this whole concept we've been touching on the last 2 episodes, these young kids with the ability and the chance to prove themselves. And as long as you have that, and as long as you have people that want to prove themselves and want to be successful and want to put the work ethic in, you never know what happens.
Yep. Funny enough, earlier today on ESPN, they announced that Kumar Rocker will probably not sign with the Mets. They came back something on his physical that they didn't like, and they cannot seems come to terms to an agreement. And that was Kumar Rocker was one of the guys that for the past season, Pirates fans were pretty sure we were going to pick him. Then Leiter came around and Davis, partially for financial reasons. But, he's a name that hardcore Pirates fans will know, and he'll have a couple options. He can either go back to Vanderbilt, he can go sign with an independent league, or play overseas. So I'll be curious to see what he decides to do at this point.
Yeah. We'll see. So some of these high draft picks we've had lately, we'll see what they turn out to be. With do you think the guy we drafted this last year, you said Davis, right? The catcher.
Henry Davis out of Louisville.
Yeah. So number 1 overall. Do you think he makes a quick transition to the big league club, or do you think he's still going to be a couple years away?
I would imagine he's going to be quicker rather than sooner rather than later. He is coming from college, so he doesn't have quite the turnaround time that you would hope would need, seasoning that you would think would be needed in the minors. I would say I would anticipate playing him in AAA, maybe seeing him in the big leagues, not anytime this season, probably not anytime next season, but possibly the season after.
Okay. So he's a big slugger, right? If I remember correctly, he's a big home run hitter.
He has a great bat. He seems to be a great teammate from all accounts. I guess the scouts' concerns are really pitch framing, which I think the Pirates might be looking ahead a little bit on that one because the way the league is talking, pitch framing might not even be a thing a couple years from now if they decide to go with the robotic umpires, robotic strike zone.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then that's, not an attribute that's no longer needed. So you can really toss that one out.
Yeah, fair point.
So
Okay.
we'll see. He definitely could be like a Buster Posey type, franchise player, if everything goes right.
Yeah.
That's the big question.
Cool. Yeah, I mean that'd be good. That'd be good to have somebody like that. It's been a while since we've had a franchise type person. I know I have seen reports and heard people talking that they want Brian Reynolds to kind of be um, a franchise guy, to build around Brian Reynolds. So hopefully that's the case. I think Brian Reynolds is a good player for sure, and I'd like to see some of these big name guys actually stay. It's frustrating when you keep getting these guys that are all stars and top talent, and you just keep throwing away. And I know that's how baseball works, but sometimes you got to keep these big name guys to build around and have a successful team, rather than just getting rid of them and starting over. But I know it's the way it works. It's frustrating, but it's the way it is.
Yeah, and it is possible to keep some of your franchise type players. You look at a similar market like Milwaukee, and they were able to sign Christian Yelich to a huge contract extension. So it's possible to do it. It's just a matter of does the owner want to, and does the player want to?
Yeah. Timing, a lot of things go into it. Yep.
Yep.
So, well, hopefully, in the couple year future, we'll be talking the Pirates, and we'll look back at this episode and we'll say, well, Will knew what he's talking about. We're putting everything together, and we're gonna be back at least a winning season here, hopefully in a couple of years.
Yep. I think that's all we asked for in Pittsburgh. It's tough when you have the Steelers and the Penguins. We don't win every season, but at least they try to win every season.
Yeah.
And then you look at the Pirates, and
yeah,
not so much.
Just yep. All right, so that's our Pittsburgh sports update. Looking forward to a new season for Steelers and Penguins, and looking forward to the future for the Pirates. So, all right. So next we've got our Loki and our Marvel talk. So the new series, Loki on Disney Plus. Marvel continuing to put out great work. In my opinion, absolutely fantastic. WandaVision was great. We talked about that. Loki, I thoroughly enjoyed. I thought it was fantastic. And again, Marvel's setting things up for what's next, what's to come. And the way that Marvel does stuff as far as connecting shows and movies and characters together, even if it's just like subtle hints, Easter eggs, whatever the case may be, it's amazing how they're able to connect things here or there. And I know we're going to talk about that a little bit later on. I have a thing that I want to touch on, but just in general, just the way that they're able to take these characters, even in their solo shows or movies, whether it be Black Widow or Loki or WandaVision, but still find a way to completely connect them with other characters and other shows and movies. And it's amazing. I think they do an amazing job, a great job. And that's one of the main reasons that I love Marvel, is they're so good at what they do. And even after putting out movie after movie and phase after phase and show after show, they're still just great at it.
Yeah, they really are. They tie everything together in just such a great way. Similar to reading the comic books as a kid, where you would get those little text boxes with the asterisk, like see issue 29 of X-Men for how this occurred, and like just tying it all together. It's truly a hard job for those folks that work there and have to make sure that the continuity is correct and they're not spoiling anything or revealing anything they don't want to.
Right.
And yeah, the shows thus far all have been very good in my opinion. I would say before the last episode of Loki, WandaVision would have been my number one. Then the last episode of Loki happened, and I would say Loki took that spot over. Yeah. Falcon and Winter Soldier was good in its own way. It was more of your standard Marvel action type movie
Yeah.
type feel to it. I was hoping for a little bit more like buddy elements between Falcon and the Winter Soldier or Bucky that we really didn't see as much as I would have liked, but still enjoyable nevertheless. And
Yeah.
Now with the multiverse happening, What If, the new series, comes out here in a week or so. Should be really cool, animated, and really going to explore the multiverse and just what can happen in an infinite timeline.
Yep. Yep. So before we get into what's next, let's talk Loki in itself and kind of review the first season a little bit, and just talk about how great it was. So going through, we started off episode 1 called "Glorious Purpose," where Loki, found himself after the events of the original Avengers and the Battle of New York, gets his hands on the Tesseract and finds himself changing the timeline and being arrested by this organization called the Time Variance Authority, the TVA. And he finds himself going through he stands trial, at this authority, and for his crimes against the sacred timeline. So we've got this whole new concept of there's this one timeline, this sacred timeline that needs preserved. Nothing can deviate from that timeline. And so he gets taken by this authority. He meets this agent, Mobius, and Mobius takes him into this theater room and goes through his whole what would have been in the future, his whole timeline, his whole life timeline. And it kind of shocks Loki in a way that he kind of says to himself, that's not how I want my life to live out. The whole events of Thanos we see in Infinity War, and his mother dying and everything, and it kind of kicks Loki and says, he kind of gets the idea that he's still Loki. He still has that self-preservance aspect to him, but at the same time, seeing these events kind of changes him a little bit right off the bat in the first episode, where he's like, that's not how I want my life to be seen, how I want it to live out. And so that's kind of where that first episode takes us, is him being influenced into changing what could be in his future. So, Will, thoughts on that first episode?
Yeah, it was great to finally see the Loki character front and center. He's always kind of been a peripheral in the background, causing mischief. Tom Hiddleston's a great actor. He plays the role extremely well. And so, yeah, right off the bat, I was very excited. I like Marvel's once a week strategy. I know some people don't, but it keeps that anticipation going. So right after that first episode, I could not wait for next week to get here and watch the second episode.
Yeah, it's just a build up, the anticipation of waiting for the next one. Yep. So in the second episode, called The Variant, which was the name that this new authority, the Time Variance Authority, gives to people who deviate from the sacred timeline, cause mischief, so on and so forth. And in this episode is basically where Loki goes through training of sorts by this new Time Variance Authority to help them catch another variant who is causing even more disturbance than Loki himself did. And so they kind of are training him, using him to find this other variant and hopefully catch them and save the sacred timeline. And in this episode, Loki kind of goes through a bunch of different apocalypse events. They find out he kind of determines that this other variant is hiding in apocalypse events because things are destined to happen in those events, and that variant being there doesn't really change anything. And so he's going through, and eventually they meet up at a certain event, and Loki, the Loki that we know, meets this other variant who we find out is another version of a Loki. And kind of one of those whoa moments for sure. And so this female version of Loki, this other variant, we find out that she completely despises the Time Variance Authority for ruining her life by taking her as a child from her life, and completely despises the Time Variance Authority and is on a mission to essentially destroy them. And so at the end of the second episode, she basically sets a bunch of charges through the TemPads, which are portal devices that allow the Time Variance Authority to travel through time, space and time. And she puts a bunch of charges through those portals, and we don't know exactly what happened. Well, no, they start exploding in different timelines and everything, and just create havoc, complete havoc across the timeline. So, thoughts on second episode? What did you think when we found out that the variant we're hunting was a female version of Loki?
Yeah, it was that big reveal. There's a bunch of like, it could be this person, it could be that person. And then when we find out it's just a variant of Loki, it was like, okay, I see where they're going with this, and really pushing the infinite timelines and the variants, and I really enjoyed the apocalypse when they went to Pompeii in the beginning of the episode, and that was cracking me up. That was really funny.
It was hilarious. Yeah, the Loki that we know was just being a complete fool, realizing that nothing he did was going to change the timeline. So he was just being himself, being mischief, and just being a goofball. And like he said, nothing's going to change, nothing's going to happen, no matter what I do. But yeah, that was hilarious. It was. Yep.
Yeah, and the interaction between Owen Wilson and just the cast in general, it was always a delight to see Owen Wilson. I find him to be very funny, and I thought he was excellent in this role, and hopefully we can even see more of him in the future.
Yep, agreed. Yeah, I didn't realize Owen Wilson was going to be in the series. When I saw him, I was like, hey, I know that guy. He's good.
Did you say wow?
Oh, wow. No. I should have, though. Yeah, he's a good actor. He's a lot of funny. A lot of good, like you said, a lot of good interaction between the two. They really worked well together. Created a good relationship, not only between their characters, but them themselves seem to work really well together. So episode three, labeled Lamentis, the Loki that we know. Well, I guess we'll start with the female Loki, who we end up finding out is named Sylvie. After creating the havoc at the Time Variance Authority, creates just the complete mayhem, and all the agents of the Time Variance Authority are going across the timeline to try to fix what she messed up. And while they're all distracted, she tries to sneak around the Time Variance Authority headquarters and destroy them from the inside out. And the main agent of the Time Variance Authority, named Renslayer, she uses a TemPad to or she attacks the Loki, the female Loki, and Loki ends up having to escape. Um, they escape to so both Lokis at this point are together, and both Lokis escape to a planet called Lamentis, which is at that time currently being destroyed by a well, it's I guess technically the moon, and they're on the moon, and the moon is being destroyed by the planet, essentially exploding on it, or being um, destroyed on it, and so the two Lokis have to work together. They have to work together to try to escape the scenario that they're in. The temp pad that they were using ends up running out of power, and so they're trying to find a way to charge it. And so they're trying to figure out ways to escape this planet before they get killed, because they don't have a way off with the temp pad not having power. And they end up kind of learning a little bit about themselves or about each other. And being that they are in a way the same person, just from different timelines or different worlds, um, they end up building a bond, you could say. Um, Kind of falling for each other. Uh, at first thought, kind of weird, but at the same time, kind of cute. They're different people. They look completely different, but at the same time, they're considered the same person, just from different timelines. And so as they continue to work together to try to escape the planet, they this is where you really see a big change in the Loki that we know. Um, he ends up feeling for the people of the planet who are going to be killed, and he ends up doing what he can to try to save them, honestly, or at least as many as he can. And this is, like I said, really where you see a change in Loki, where it's not just all about him, and he starts having consideration for other people, and also opening himself up to Sylvie as well. So it's a big episode for Loki that we know.
Right. Yeah. Was this the episode with them on the train?
Yes.
Yes, I really enjoyed that part of it. Thought it was really funny when Sylvie falls asleep and then she wakes up and Loki's just throwing this massive party on the
Yeah.
train. And yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of comedic elements in this episode. And yeah, to your point, you really start to see the bond growing between the two Lokis.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So the bond itself, and also honestly a change in both of them. So Sylvie is just hell bent on destroying the timekeepers, and Loki is hell bent on self preservance. And in this episode, they, like I said, you really start to see a change where they start to think of somebody other than themselves a little bit. They still have their goals in mind, they still have their ways about things, but you feel a change, you see a change, and um, so they at the very end of the episode, they have a moment where they're sitting there realizing that they're probably going to die, and the connection that they build with each other, they have with each other, actually ends up creating a huge spike of disturbance on the timeline, which is called in the series is called a nexus event, which is just a event on the timeline that's just so massive, um, creates just a huge disturbance. And so their connection creates this nexus event, which leads into episode 4 called the nexus event. And because of this event that they created, the Time Variance Authority was able to locate the two Lokis and, in a way, save them, actually. Not realizing probably what they were doing, saving them, but they essentially wanted to bring them in, but they ended up saving them from this exploding planet. And so in this episode, Sylvie kind of opens up more to Loki. She tells Loki how she was captured by the Time Variance Authority as a child. Um, um, Mobius, in order to kind of discipline or punish or whatever you want to call it of Loki for what he did, he puts him in a time loop with Sif, one of the characters from Thor, and he puts it in a time loop with Sif, just kind of telling Loki that he's so selfish and just over and over and over, and it really, again, it's a huge moment for the Loki that we know, because it completely breaks him down from what he's been his whole life as this selfish, self-preservance kind of individual. And Sif continually going through in this time loop. Yeah, she's knocking the crap out of him, but at the same time, just hearing the words coming from her, saying that, how selfish he is, and how he's not deserving of this or that. It again creates a huge change in the character that we know. And so eventually, after Loki gets freed from this time loop by Mobius, because at the same time that the time loop's going on, Mobius essentially finds out from one of the other agents in the Time Variance Authority, who was possessed by Sylvie in a prior episode, ends up finding out that all the agents of the TVA had their own life before being captured by the Time Variance Authority. And they were all basically brainwashed into this way of thinking from the Time Variance Authority. And so that it infuriates Mobius, Agent Mobius, and to wanting to understand more of why this happened, and why he was taken from his other life. And so he releases Loki, and they pursue more answers. And so he helps Loki help free Sylvie, who basically the two Lokis go and they find the Timekeeper's chamber. And in this episode, they end up being successful in defeating the Timekeepers, and end up finding out that the Timekeepers were basically just androids, just machines, and it was all just a ploy, and it's not really the ones who were in charge of the timeline. And it's a big reveal this episode for sure.
Yes, very much a Wizard of Oz type man behind the curtain reveal.
Yes. Yeah, so we didn't know who the man behind the curtain was at all, but we knew that someone else was pulling the strings, and set it up for the next episode. And so at the very end of that episode, that same episode, episode 4, after defeating the Timekeepers, Renslayer ends up pruning Loki. And as far as we knew going into that episode, pruning looks like you just basically completely evaporated the person who got pruned. And so at that point, I know for me, I was like, what? You just killed the main character of the show. What? How? What? And that was one of those episodes where, okay, well, let's go next episode right now. That was one of those episodes, or one of those things where I was like, okay, I don't want to wait another week. I can't wait another week now. And so that leads us into episode 5, where we find out that when getting pruned, they essentially are just being sent to another planet that is being devoured by this massive creature called the Alioth. It's basically this like cloud beast that just devours all life. And once it devours them, then they officially get like deleted from existence. And so on this planet, the Loki that we know ends up meeting some interesting characters. He ends up meeting other versions of himself again. So like Sylvie, there's other versions of Loki from other timelines, other planets, other universes, other multiverses. And so he ends up meeting these other Lokis on this planet, and they devise a plan to at first just escape the Alioth, keep running and hiding from the Alioth. And as this is all going on, um, Sylvie is again trying to get more answers on who's in charge of this whole scenario, this whole timeline. And as doing so, fighting with Renslayer, she ends up pruning herself to go and find Loki, the Loki that we know. And because she finds out that when they get pruned, they don't actually get killed, they go to this planet. And so she prunes herself, goes, finds Loki on the planet, and with a little help from a few of the other Lokis, they end up enchanting this creature, Alioth, which they definitely did not think was possible. But Sylvie trusted in her abilities to do so, and they enchant this creature, Alioth, thinking that it would give answers to who is in charge, who's behind the, who's pulling the strings, who's in charge of this whole scenario. And so they end up enchanting Alioth and basically see this gateway open, and you see this castle, and they start walking toward it, and that's where the episode ends. And again, you're like, oh, please bring on the next episode. And so it was a cool episode for sure. Mobius ends up returning because he was pruned as well, so he ends up returning. Everybody kind of back after thinking that they were dead. And really cool episode. I know you said you liked some of the characters that were introduced in this episode.
Oh yeah, let's give it up for Gator Loki here.
Gator Loki, everybody's favorite Loki, Alligator Loki. Yeah. So yeah, it was funny. Loki, that we know, wakes up after being pruned, and he sees these other Lokis standing over top of him. And there's one that the classic Loki, old looking Loki, kid Loki, alligator Loki, all these other Lokis. It was an entertaining episode for sure. It was funny. But yeah, so they find their way into this portal, and hopefully looking for more answers. And so after they go through the portal, it leads us to episode number 6. Leads us to episode number 6, labeled "For All Time, Always." So this is the finale of the season, and so in this finale, the two Lokis end up going into this castle, into this place, and they end up meeting this character titled "He Who Remains." So basically, they find out that this castle is at the very edge of the universe, at the very end of time. And so they meet this character, He Who Remains. And this character tells Loki and Sylvie that he essentially saved the multiverse, saved the universe, saved the timeline by defeating other versions of himself in a all-out war between all these different versions of himself. And after defeating all his other versions, he created this timeline to save the multiverse from having that great war again. And as time has passed, even though he doesn't look it, he's very old and tired and just doesn't want to do it anymore. He doesn't want to be the puppet master. And so he basically says that he would like the two Lokis to take over his job and see that the timeline continues to stay as it should be. And as he's explaining the consequences or the scenarios of what could happen or what could be, he sways Loki into believing him and understanding him and seeing where he's coming from, but Sylvie does not. Sylvie still is hell-bent on destroying him and defeating him for what was done to her as a child. And so the two Lokis end up fighting over it, and they end up falling for each other at the end because they realize they're going to be separated. And so Sylvie goes back to the TVA headquarters, or no, Sylvie sends Loki back to the TVA headquarters, and after she does that, she ends up killing He Who Remains, which essentially unleashes all hell. All hell breaks loose, and so basically we find out that what he said was true, and that he was holding everything together, and by killing him, basically just released multiple universes, multiple multiverses, all kinds of different timelines, just everything you could possibly imagine, this direction, that direction. And so after being sent back to the TVA headquarters, Loki goes and tries to find Mobius, and when he finds Mobius, Mobius does not know who Loki is, so obviously he's in a different timeline. So they didn't go through what they went through in the timeline of the whole series. And not only that, but Loki looks over and he sees a statue of He Who Remains in the TVA headquarters, realizing that, something's a little different here. And that's kind of where we end. So that's no longer the Timekeeper's statue there. There's this new statue, this new person that's now in control of everything, the whole timeline. And you and I know who it is. So, Will, I know you know a lot more of what's to come. So, you want to hop in and fill us in on who that is, what that means, and what's to come?
Yeah, so that's essentially Kang the Conqueror, who's a time traveling character in the comic books. Takes on various roles throughout his history. Some are pretty cool. One he actually turns out to be Reed Richards' son, who Reed Richards is Mr. Fantastic. So there could be possibly some introduction of the Fantastic Four here at some point. He's a very strong character who this definitely opens up the multiverse. So we can tell from the title of the upcoming Doctor Strange movie that's going to be playing a very central role. So we can expect Jonathan Majors, the actor who plays Kang, to be in that. There's rumors of him possibly being in the upcoming Spider-Man movie. So we will almost certainly be seeing, and Ant-Man.
Yes.
The upcoming Ant-Man movie. So we will certainly be seeing variants of Kang of some sort. It'll be cool to see whether they're all bad. Maybe some are good.
That's a good point. Yeah.
There's a lot of different ways they can take it, but the multiverse is in full flux as of now. And it's exciting. There's a lot of different ways they can take it. So I'm curious to see where they go.
Yeah. So again, Marvel has that way of not only bringing everything together. So by basically the whole season was creating this one singular timeline, this one sole storyline, this whole plot, and then all of a sudden at the end of the episode they just break it all open and just leave it open for anything and everything to happen in the next phase of Marvel, and it releases all kinds of opportunities, all kinds of ability to go any direction that they want. And I'll never fully understand all these different timelines and stuff. It makes it a little confusing, but again, at the same time, it's very intriguing, and it leaves it open to the next steps, the next phase, and instead of dialing it down, they're ramping it back up again.
Yeah, and it's important to mention too that obviously we're dealing with fictitious characters here, but the multiverse theory is a true scientific theory. You can look it up if you're interested and really delve deep into it. But it is a true scientific theory that they're basing this off of, in that there are infinite timelines. So there's basically anything you can think of, there is a universe or a timeline that thought of yours exists in. And as well as breaking off of that timeline, you basically, that happens anytime that your decision, that you have to think about a decision, that you come to essentially a fork in the road. Um, so, I wanted to come on this podcast 100%, but if I had thought about it and maybe I didn't, then that would have broken off and there would be one timeline in which I didn't appear and the current timeline we're in. And so, of course, that exists then, and the possibilities of that timeline that just was created and branching off of that, so on and so forth. Um, YouTube's great. So if you're interested more and you want to learn more about the multiverse theory from a scientific perspective, it's there for you. But it's pretty cool. Is it true? Who knows? But it's something to think about and chat with about your friends and just explore it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So that was the rundown of the first season of Loki. Um, Tons of fun, good action, a good comedy. Some good humor. But I think the main goal was again to expand the possibilities for Marvel. I think that was the kind of the main goal for this series, at least the first season, to just open it up for what's next to come. And they did it well, because not only did they introduce a character that we haven't seen in the main spotlight, who has a lot of potential. They also showed that he can change. They showed that he can become less selfless and can start to care about others more. And so, if a bad guy like Loki can do it, so can you. Bright connection. But yeah, so and then they like you. I know you mentioned to me that they didn't really anticipate having a multiple season series for Loki, but they already confirmed that a season 2 is in the works. So we've got more Loki. You have any idea of what we might expect in season 2 of Loki?
Honestly, not at this point. We'll have to see where the rest of this phase goes. We have a bunch of movies coming out here soon that will really start piecing together what they're going to do with this current phase. So hopefully by the end of this calendar year, I think we'll have a much better idea. But until then, just soak it up and
just exactly soak it all in. If you're a Marvel fan, even casual Marvel fan, just because Infinity War and Endgame happened and everything was supposedly done, there's so much more to come, and yeah, I'm excited. But before we do get into what's next, there's one more thing that happened between the last two series for Marvel that were released on Disney Plus, WandaVision and Loki. And there's a connection that, again, Marvel always finds these ways to connect things, and it's incredible. So there was a connection that somebody found that, again, I don't know if it was coincidence, but I highly doubt it, because it lines up so perfectly. So if you watch the two finales of Loki and WandaVision in tandem, if you watch them at the same time, at a certain time point in both of the episodes, when the Lokis are talking to He Who Remains, and when Wanda becomes Scarlet Witch, at the very exact same time of both episodes, He Who Remains says the sentence, "We've just crossed the threshold." And the threshold that he was talking about is basically that he no longer has control of what's going on in the timeline. So at that point, he says, "I do not have control of what's going on in the timeline anymore," is when the same time that Wanda becomes Scarlet Witch. And then to kind of further go with it, as Wanda finishes her battle with Agatha and Agatha falls to the ground and kind of hits the ground, is the same time that He Who Remains drops something on his desk, and it lines up perfectly. I thought it was so cool. Again, could it be just something that they threw in there to say, oh, that's kind of happened at the same time, or is there more meaning to it? Does Scarlet Witch have a huge role in this whole multiverse? And I thought it was amazing. I thought it was so cool that somebody found that connection and brought it up. And again, with Marvel, with what they do, they always have those little things in there that connect things together.
Yep, and I've heard that we can expect to see Scarlet Witch in the upcoming Doctor Strange movie. So there's definitely something more going on there.
Yeah, and then we've you and I have also talked, at the very end of WandaVision, where she hears her children, voices of her children in her head again, kind of plays into the whole fact that there's multiverses.
Yep.
So, yeah. It's been broken. It's been just expanded, and who knows what's going to happen next. Just tune in and find out, right?
Yep.
So as this is season of Loki is coming to an end, or has come to an end, what can we expect next for Marvel? So we just had the release of Black Widow, the movie Black Widow. Next, some of the movies we've got next. 3 more scheduled for 2021. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings expected in September. Eternals expected in November. Spider-Man No Way Home coming in December. Then after that, in 2022, we've got Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, Thor, Love and Thunder, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, The Marvels. And then in 2023, we're expecting Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumanium, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and then, as you mentioned, a Fantastic Four movie coming up again, which has not really had a date yet, but a lot more to come. A lot more to come. I believe there's a Captain Marvel 2 movie as well, which I don't see on.
That's gonna be the Marvels.
Oh, that's the Marvels. Okay.
Right, because they're gonna have Miss Marvel will be in that, as well as oh gosh, I'm blanking on the name, but her friend from WandaVision, who was the Air Force pilot. She's also going to be in it as well. So those 3 together, they decided to just call the movie The Marvels.
Okay. I was not aware of that. See, I knew I brought the right person on here. And then some of the upcoming series. We already had WandaVision, Falcon, Winter Soldier, Loki. Next up, we've got What If, which you mentioned, August 11th starts up. Then we've got Hawkeye, who we know from the Avengers movies. We've got Miss Marvel in her own movie. We've got Moon Knight, She-Hulk, Secret Invasion, Ironheart, Armor Wars, and a Wakanda series, which is untitled still, but the series are out there, the movies are out there, they're coming. We've got plenty more on the way, and they're all gonna be good, I can imagine. So, are there any in particular that you're really waiting for?
I would say Moon Knight.
Okay.
He's a lesser known character, but we've seen Marvel have success with that before with entities like Guardians of the Galaxy and other pretty obscure comic before Chris Pratt and cast made it hilarious and very popular. Essentially, Moon Knight is Marvel's version of Batman. And I guess to add an extra layer to that, he also has split personality disorder. So he isn't always the most heroic character. It really depends on what personality is in charge at that point. It has 2 very well-known stars, and Oscar Isaac and Ethan Hawke in it. So, really great cast, really interesting character that I think after the show will be very popular and catch on rather quickly.
Yeah, that's an intriguing little side piece there. I mean, you got a superhero who kind of, if he's like you said, he's like Batman, it's like more of a vigilante, but to add on to it, has multiple personalities. Yeah, that should make for a pretty interesting series. Yeah.
Yes. Rumor has it Ethan Hawke will be playing a vampire character that Moon Knight has been known to battle, which then could possibly lead us into, we know that another film coming out is Blade.
Yeah.
They're introducing Blade, so they're thinking maybe that's a way that Blade gets introduced or brought in to the universe as well.
Again, Marvel doing it, connecting everything in one way or another. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. So, all right, that's some of our, that's what's up to come. That's next in Marvel Phase 4. So, um, we still got plenty to watch, plenty to see, plenty to be excited about. Should be fun. Should be fun. All right, that'll conclude our Marvel talk. Let's finish off the episode with a bright story. Will, you have a bright story for us?
Yeah, yeah. It's I recently had a birthday. It was my 30th birthday. And so, as all of us last year, we went through birthdays, not really getting to celebrate them probably the way we had hoped or wanted to. This one was particularly nice. My family threw together a little get together, and just getting to see everyone again and just talk about how we're doing and go through those rituals of eating a meal together, having cake, opening presents, singing happy birthday, which I hate people doing for me, but I did it anyways.
Yep.
All that fun stuff. It was really nice, and I really appreciated it. And it's just very nice and humbling to get back to quote unquote normal and get to do some of those things that before the pandemic we probably took for granted. And now it's something that hopefully just gives each of us a little bit more gratitude and thankfulness for.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just a simple thing of them thinking about you and knowing that them being in your life again for your birthday, especially, but them being there again, was what you needed and what you wanted. And just like you said, it was humbling. I'm sure you cherished every moment of it and really appreciated seeing them again and talking to them again and just reconnecting with everybody after it's been a while. That a lot of us have been apart, and like you said, just getting back to things that we probably took for granted before. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm glad you were able to do that. I'm glad you had that opportunity and saw the bigger picture, behind it. It wasn't just them singing happy birthday to you. It was them being in your life and them spending time with you on a special day. So absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome. Awesome. All right. That'll about do it then. That'll about do it. Will, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. Thanks for your insight and as always, your extreme knowledge of the Marvel verse and what's to come. So thanks again for joining me. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Brian, for having me, and I can't wait till next time and we can do it all over again.
You bet. You bet. Absolutely. Guys, thanks again for joining. As always, if you could give a thumbs up, give a like on the YouTube video, if you could share your thoughts, share your comments, share the video with others, talk about Bright Connections, talk about what we're trying to accomplish here. Give it a rating on whatever you listen to it, on. Give it a rating, give it a like, whatever you can do to continue to share and continue as always to do what you can to be bright yourself. Continue to be kind. Continue to just put a good front forward. Just be kind to each other. Be positive to each other. Ask how others are doing. Console them if they're down. Celebrate with them if they're happy. Just be there for each other. That's what it's all about. So. Have a wonderful and bright week, guys. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Take care.